Okay, so here's a quick rundown of my process for making these barrels. So first thing, I go ahead and model my base mesh. This is the model I'm going to be using to take inside a ZBrush so I can sculpt my details on. So I try and make my base mesh as, detailed as it needs to be, so when it's time for me to sculpt, I don't need to go back into Max and do anything. Now I unwrap my low poly. I unwrap my low poly model. I do all this stuff first because once I sculpt, I am locked into the creative process and I don't want to have to exit that creative space to go UV right after. I like to keep my creativity flowing, so I do all the boring stuff first. So after my low poly is unwrapped, I sculpt my details on my base mesh inside of ZBrush. So now, I'm just sculpting my details. I try and stay, within my boundaries that I have for my low poly, because if I go outside of those boundaries, chances are my details that I have sculpted are not going to bake properly once I take it into Painter to start texturing. So once I sculpt all my details, then I take that into Painter and I start texturing. My texturing process varies depending on the prop. Like, it's kind of different every time, but the setup's kind of the same. I just drop some colors in with some mask and some height information, and then I just play around until I get a look that I'm looking for. Yeah, if you guys are interested in watching this in real time, you can get the files in the link in the description. It's just my process. Pretty easy to follow. So what's included in the files is video, my process of creating my base mesh, making my low poly, unwrapping my low poly, sculpting my details onto my base mesh in ZBrush, and then baking inside of Substance Painter to texture. So if you're a beginner, very simple techniques here. Go grab that.